I find it interesting that the LBMA came out the other day and warned of counterfeiting, counterfeited metal, which they said distorts prices by creating artificial supply. And you think about that for a second and think this is the institution that's trading billions in unallocated bullion contracts, unbacked, selling claims on gold and silver you can't deliver. Doesn't that kind of sound like you're creating artificial supply, counterfeiting in a digital format?
The LBMA just admitted something that should terrify every silver investor. They warned about counterfeit metal distorting the market by creating artificial supply. Let that sink in. The institution that trades billions in unbacked silver contracts is now accusing others of doing exactly what they've done for decades. Meanwhile, UBS just flipped bullish on silver, forecasting $42 by 2025. And Andy Schectman says this $80 setup is inevitable, unless they kill it first. If you thought stacking silver would protect you, wait till you hear how they plan to weaponize fake supply before the price explodes.
They have the state-sponsored accumulation programs for Chinese housewives. I mean, they're pushing their populace into owning gold. You can see this is a bigger deal than just the state owning it. They see a benefit in their public, in their constituents across all of China to own gold. And in all of the provinces, it's not just in Shanghai, it's a big deal. An interview that I watched last night blew my mind. It's with the BRICS CEO. His name is Andre Mikhailishin. I'm butchering that for sure, but he's the BRICS CEO, chairman and founder, Andre Mikhailishin. Anyways, sorry, Andre, for butchering your name. I'm sure I did, but some things that he talked about BRICS Pay. Now, first of all, one of the questions that was asked of him, and we fortunately got this right, was what's the difference between BRICS Pay and BRICS Bridge? He said BRICS Bridge is basically mBridge, and it is a technology that is fully backed, as we know, by China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. They're the 5 main participants in the BRICS Bridge technology, formerly mBridge, and it is, as he said, a cross-border CBDC platform for central banks from Saudi Arabia to China. The expansion, according to Sergei Lavrov, of the BRICS Bridge platform into non-BRICS countries. I mentioned the Belt Road specifically, 150 plus countries, 75% of human population, north of 50% of global GDP. They were going to use BRICS Bridge for these central banks to trade with one another. Think of the new Shanghai Gold program. So they will trade with one another across the bridge, free from SWIFT interference, in local currencies, and then settle imbalances in gold. We were spot on that. Very early to say that, spot on, and that's just the beginning. Well, he also talked about BRICS Pay. Now, BRICS Pay is a technology that is B2B, business to business. It is consumer to business, business to consumer. It is bank to bank. It is one notch below the BRICS Bridge program. It is also free from SWIFT interference. They talked about having aspirations of at some point of being integrated with things like Visa and MasterCard, but they're not because of the sanctions that are put on Russia and Iran. And this is primarily being driven by the Russians right now, the BRICS Pay platform. So they are completely autonomous from the West. But he did say that in the future, he sees BRICS Pay and BRICS Bridge being combined, so that you have the central bank portion, you have the B2B portion, all under one kind of big package of breaking free from the West. He said currently their representatives are in China to develop BRICS Pay technology throughout the Belt Road. How do you like that? So the Belt Road is being already integrated. We know this through the BRICS Bridge, and now they're going to open up BRICS Pay on the Belt Road. So not only will the countries trade with one another as China industrializes them, as they pull the natural resources out of the ground, as they build the infrastructure to industrialize these third world countries in Africa and Asia and South America, They will do so free from SWIFT interference over the BRICS bridge and settle imbalances in gold through the Shanghai Gold Exchange and all the other exchanges like the one in Singapore and Moscow, the BRICS exchange. All of these other exchanges will be integrated into this system. But now they have their representatives negotiating in China right now to use BRICS Pay amongst the Belt Road. This is massive, right? So you get all of these business to business, bank to bank, like the commercial banks, regional banks, not the big central banks. That's the bridge. But BRICS Pay will be bank to bank, business to business, business to consumer, etc., integrated through the Belt Road. That is a massive, massive, massive development. And I think it's something that should not be overlooked. He said something kind of was one of these bang moments, and I'm like, holy crap, what did he just say? And I had to stop and rewind it, because I bet you no one has heard this before, but I want you all to think about this in terms of stablecoin and in terms of the digital world we are moving into. He said, they asked him, the gal asked him, she said, you know, there's a lot of terrorism out there and bad people, and how you know you're not going to be financing terrorism or bad people, more or less. And he said, you know, this is open, guess what he said, to non-BRICS countries as well. BRICS Pay. Not compatible in the West yet, just like BRICS Bridge, but it's open to non-BRICS members. So you're talking expansion, massive expansion. This is what the BRICS naysayers never caught on to. They didn't catch on to it yet with the BRICS Bridge. We did, and we said by Lavrov opening it up to the non-BRICS countries, you have just ignited a fuse under the dollar. Because now it's not just the 10 BRICS countries, you're talking the majority of human population when you throw in the Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, the BRICS, and all of the other countries, like the countries in Southeast Asia, the Eurasian countries or the Asian countries rather, that have just signed up to BRICS Bridge. They in and of themselves, with the 5 Middle Eastern countries that did represent 38% of global GDP. Now you open all of this up to non-BRICS countries, bang. Well, now they're opening BRICS Pay to non-BRICS countries, right? So the reason I left my corporate office in Minnesota is because it's the only state in America, and again, they're now re-implementing it, licensing and bonding. And so we're very attuned to anti-money laundering laws and know your client legislation. They said, well, you know, how you know you're not funding terrorism? And he said, well, because we're opening this up to other countries, we are keenly aware of compliance issues in all of these countries. And he said, our software is compliant with AML, anti-money laundering laws, and KYC. Now, you know that, right? And he said, our software is compliant with KYC, AML, and KYT. Now, before I tell you what KYT is, I want you all to think about this in terms of stablecoin and this digital surveillance world we've been warning you about. That a lot of people say that these stablecoins are kind of like a CBDC in sheep's clothing, you know, kind of like it still gives the central authorities the ability to monitor, to track the on-ramp and the off-ramp, do all these things. Well, guess what KYT stands for? Know your transactions. So their software is compliant with know your customer, anti-money laundering, and know your transactions. So guess what? What you are buying ultimately is going to be part of this software. You go and buy a couple AR-15s for your home protection, may not be a good idea. You know, you go buy bullets, you go buy alcohol, you go buy cigarette, whatever it is that you're gonna buy, guess what? It's gonna be known. And that's part of this whole new digital ecosystem. And I think it's kind of scary if you ask me, but I had never heard that before, as you. And you and I are pretty well in tune to this kind of stuff. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I thought it was kind of concerning myself. I've been thinking a lot about the gold to silver ratio. And, you know, you got Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan forecasting $4,000 gold by next year. I think that's pretty reasonable, actually, on many levels. But assuming that plays out and the gold to silver ratio were to get to 50 to 1, where it's averaged about 45 to 1 for the last 150 years. At 50 to 1, which is very conservative, at a $4,000 gold ratio, that puts silver at $80 an ounce. I mean, you're talking a double, easy double. And so when I think about where silver could ultimately go, there are so many things that are screaming silver and its value right now. You know, UBS just raised its target to $42 an ounce. That's about an 11% increase. But when you look at all of the things that have been happening, to me, whether it be the increase in the lease rate, the lack of shares available to short or to buy to cover shorts on SLV, the massive delay from T+1 settlement in London to T+8 weeks in London, the huge deliveries. When you look at the distortions that we find in the silver market, when you look at a simple returning to 50 to 1, even if you went to 70 to 1, where it was just a couple of years ago, that puts silver at basically $60 an ounce. That's a solid, 50% gain almost. So you're talking about, I think, the value of a generation. And it seems that things are changing. The way that the market is moving. We're not seeing these massive sell-offs. We're seeing consolidation, choppiness, volatility, but the strength is something that is very different than what we've witnessed before. I'm very, very, very hopeful for what the rest of the year brings for the price of silver. I find it interesting that the LBMA came out the other day and warned of counterfeited metal, which they said distorts prices by creating artificial supply. And you think about that for a second and think this is the institution that's trading billions in unallocated bullion contracts unbacked, selling claims on gold and silver you can't deliver. Doesn't that kind of sound like you're creating artificial supply, counterfeiting in a digital form? I don't know. I'm just throw that out there. I laughed when I read that. But again, UBS is saying 38 to 42 through September 2025. They're talking just in a month through June 2026. So they're basically saying we're right there. By the way, for the people who we're recording this on Monday, the options expire today. So I expect today to be volatile, just like Friday was and Thursday. But I expect it to shoot right back up tomorrow. We'll see if I'm right when the next contract hits the board.